Alrighty, now the real fun part. We get to hear from our patients and their surgeons, and let's make this as interactive as possible. And first up is going to be tips and tricks, my experience with my brace. And we have Brooke and Eloise, right on? Amit, I'll let you introduce your patient.
You're running a little late.
Late.
So just have Brooke.
Brooke, okay, go ahead, Dr. Jain, take it away.
Okay, well, first of all, this session is really about a superstar here, Brooke, as well as many superstars who are in the audience, girls and boys who have been wearing the brace or are going to be wearing the brace or thinking about wearing the brace. The session is really meant to talk about kind of the daily struggle with it, what you expect, what are the things to think about, etc. So I'm just going to go over a couple of slides and then we're going to turn it over to Brooke. So why should I wear my brace? So I hope most of us have answered this question today. And really the answer is the goal of bracing is to prevent progression of the curve. So by wearing the brace, hopefully, we can prevent the need for surgery. And it's really a time-dependent thing. The longer you wear it, the more likely it's going to work. Next slide. What can I do with my brace? Bracing is generally worn under the clothing and not visible. It's okay to participate in normal life activities, and Dr. Larson just kind of made a point about that, which is really you can do whatever you feel comfortable with. And it's okay to take the brace off to do athletic activities and other things you enjoy, and then put it back on. Any activity you feel comfortable in the brace, you're okay to do. Next slide. Bracing wear tips, just general tips, and Brooke is going to go much more into it. So pay attention to your skin daily. Wear an undershirt, preferably a cotton shirt that most kids find most comfortable, without seams ideally. And the bras can be worn under the shirt, but you can talk to individual patients who can give you tips about that. And it should be snug but not tight. Next slide. And caring for your brace. So clean it daily, or ideally at least weekly. You can use soap and water. Wipe it down, and if the straps are getting loose, the straps might be needing replacement, so see your orthopedist. So now the most important, next one. Now the most important part is Brooke. So Brooke is an 8th grader who has been in a brace since 2017. And I don't know if you can tell, but she's actually wearing one right now.
Yeah, you probably can't tell. Because, so the brace, as was mentioned, is worn under the clothes. And for me, like what works is when I started wearing the brace, I wore like tank tops. But with my specific brace, my curvature is more like predominant on this side. So I have to balance it out. So it comes up on under my underarms really high. So it kind of cut into my skin. So I started wearing like short sleeve shirts, but like they're thin. Because when you wear the brace, it can get very hot and you'll sweat. So like deodorant, that's like a necessity. Because it gets really hot because you're wearing like another layer of, like 2 layers of clothing, basically. So in the summer, it's pretty difficult. But.
Brooke, so we know you like to sing. So do you feel that the brace prevents you from singing? It prevents you from doing anything that you would have otherwise wanted to do in terms of being active?
Well, when I'm in my productions, I don't wear my brace only because the costumes sometimes can get itchy and it prevents like my movement, like when I dance with choreography. So, yeah, pretty much. But during rehearsals, I do wear it.
What tips do you have for kids who are about to start needing the brace? If you could give them 1 or 2 good tips as far as, you should do this or don't do that, what would you say?
I would say the number one thing is as much as you want to take it off, balance the amount of, I would say pretty much don't stress too much about, my curve is definitely going to get worse if I don't wear my brace. Because that can give you anxiety, but reward yourself for the times that you do wear your brace, because it can really stress you out, because I know I got really stressed out.
Brooke, what are some ways that you reward yourself for wearing the brace?
It's just more like, for me, it's like a personal, like mental thing, like, oh, like good job, like you did this. And it's more like, oh, in the future, this is your reward. My personal reward is in the long run.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta think. And something I just wanna put out is, for me, I was really insecure, and it put me like in a place where I was just like questioning myself, like why, like what did I do? And especially like with like the hugging and everything, like people would hug me and I would be like, So just like, don't be insecure, because that can like really make you not want to wear your brace.
Brooke, how did you tell your friends about the fact that you were going to start wearing a brace and what it was going to be like? How was that journey?
Well, I told my friends that, I told my best friend I was gonna wear a brace because I had scoliosis and I was hysterically crying. I was like, I'm afraid you won't like me anymore. But really, they don't mind. It doesn't change who you are. It's just a piece of plastic that's keeping you upright. And it doesn't change the way that they'll think of you at all.
Brooke, what did your parents do in terms of strategies that you felt were helpful for you? In terms of encouragement or reward, or in terms of just how they made you feel comfortable with this idea?
Well, in the beginning, they kind of showed that they understood, but I knew that they didn't understand because they didn't go through what I was going through. But they were lenient. They weren't really strict. Put your brace on. They were Brooke, I know it's hard, but you got to do this. So they weren't just put it on now.
Listen, it takes so much courage to come up here, and I want to make sure that the audience has an opportunity to ask questions as well. Does anybody have any questions at all related to this for Brooke at all? Brooke, we got a question for you. Does your brace open in the front or the back?
It opens in the front.
It opens in the front. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes some braces will actually open in the back. It can be a little difficult to go in. And is there a way that you make sure that you got it on tight? What are some ways you can make sure?
So when I first got my brace, there was Sharpies that the person who was doing my brace put as a marking. So she's actually right there. She did it, not to put the spotlight on you. But it was just a marking, so when I put it on, I make sure it hits that line.
We have a question over here.
Yep.
How long did you wear it? At night or whatever? During the day, something?
So my ideal, for me when I first started, was 23 hours. That was really hard. I tried really hard to do that, but for me it was just really difficult. So I wear it during the day. I wear it to school. And I take it off right after school and I put it on at night and I sleep with it and wake up and do the same thing.
Great. Any other questions at all? Anybody, just raise your hand. Well, if not, prior to moving to the next set of patients and records, anything you want to say, parting words at all, Brooke? You think you got most everything across?
I would say stay positive and don't let anybody tell you that you are what you wear, you are your brace, because you're not. It's just something that's helping you in the future. It's for you, it's not for anybody else. And don't have a personal power struggle with your own mind, because you'll end up not wearing the brace and then you'll be right back where you started.
That's great. Next up we have Dr. Clements, really great friend and a mentor to me throughout my career, and he's got his two patients who I'm going to let him introduce.
Thanks, Amer. Good morning. Hope everybody's enjoying this. This is Elena. and Lily. They're the two most important people right here, right now on the stage. I'm just here to get them started talking. They both have had scoliosis surgery about 3 years ago, if I'm right. Yeah. And when you had scoliosis surgery, one thing that nobody talks about is you get this amazing tool called a retrospectoscope. You get to look back and see what happened, and could I have done it any better or any differently? And that's really what we're here to ask them about. What would they have done differently, or could have been done better by people who took care of them, or their parents, or their doctors?
Hi guys, so I started wearing a brace when I was 13, in the beginning of my middle school years, and when I was told by my doctors that I needed a brace, I was really upset, and I was like, oh my gosh, why me? Why do I have to wear this? Because none of my friends wore it, and I felt really alone, and because I didn't know about you can get involved with people, and I was really scared. But and I was really worried about what people would think of me if they saw it, because I wore it under my shirts and with a tank top, but it would poke out of my shirts, and sometimes people would point it out and be like, oh, what's that? But something I would have done differently with wearing it every day and having to deal with that was definitely don't worry about what other people think, because they have no idea what you're going through. They don't understand what it does unless someone explains it to them. But it's really, you don't have to worry about your friends, because my friends, they still accepted me and they loved me, and they loved me for who I was, and they understood that it was a thing that just really helped me through my journey.
Hi guys, I'm Lily. I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 11 in the fall, and I was referred to Johns Hopkins here. And by the summer, I came back after 6 months. They were just watching my curve, and it had gotten progressively worse. So they decided that I had to have surgery immediately. So when I heard that, I was extremely scared, because I was a really competitive dancer, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I wanted to still be flexible after the surgery and still be able to do everything that I could do. And it was really nerve-wracking for me, and I was really upset. But after I had the surgery, I had an extremely quick recovery, and I was able to go back to dancing for a little bit of time. And now that I'm in high school, I do cheer, and I'm on the varsity team, and I'm working on back flips, back handsprings, and I'd say that I've gotten a lot of my back flexibility back after the surgery. One thing that I would do different is not to worry about what's going to happen after the surgery, because it'll all work out in the end. And I think to recommend to anyone who's about to have surgery, make sure that you talk to your friends about it. Don't hide it, because your friends will support you. And also talk to your parents, your family about any feelings you're having, because my mom really helped me go through the surgery. She was really supportive and always there for me.
Great. So Elena, I'm interested, you had to wear a brace, and then you had to have surgery too. If you look back on it, did you feel sort of cheated? You had to wear the brace when you had to end up having surgery anyway?
I definitely did. I kind of felt like the brace didn't really do much for me, because I had to wear it for 2.5 years. And then they said, stop wearing it. You're at the point where surgery is inevitable. And I felt like I kind of wasted a bunch of years being uncomfortable and having to wear it 21 hours a day. But I mean, surgery was honestly worth it. But
So now that you've been through surgery, when you look back on going through the surgery, was the experience you had in the hospital, did you feel like people really cared about you, or how did you feel going through it? Was there anything in the surgery in the hospital you felt could have been done better to make you more comfortable? We'll ask Lily first.
So I had a really good experience with like the doctors and the nurses here. Right before I went into surgery, I had a nurse that was like talking to me and making me feel comfortable. And that was really great because I was really nervous and scared before the surgery. And then after, my family stayed with me in the hospital room that I was like staying in. And the nurses were always very nice and they helped me if I was in pain. And I just had like a good experience even though it was scary and painful.
So the day before my surgery, I had to go into the pre-op room, and I was surrounded by 2 or 3 nurses, and they made me feel so like safe, and they were like, everything's gonna be fine, and they were just like talking to me like I wasn't even having a surgery. They were just talking to me about my day, and they were making me feel so comfortable and not really worried at all. And they would like make me laugh, and they would make me so happy, and they just made me forget about this scary thing that I was going into, but it was really, really good.
So when we're prepared to go through surgery, I'm sure people tried to explain to you what it was like to have surgery. Do you think that the doctors and your family and the nurses were able to explain to you really what it was like, or do you think only somebody who's been through it could explain it?
My surgeons and doctors, they did explain to me how it was going to work, but they didn't, like, I feel like you could only really understand how it felt by, like, going through it, and they never really explained how painful it would be. Like, they'd say, it will be super painful, but you don't understand until it's super painful. So, but they did prepare me well enough that I wasn't completely clueless, and it really helped.
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying. Like, people explained it to me, but I don't think you really know the feeling until it happens to you. Like, somebody will say like, oh, it'll hurt a lot, and you'll be like, oh, I'll be fine. But then, like, after, you don't really realize what it's like until you go through it.
You know, it's so wonderful to have both of you come up and share your experiences with us, and we want to make sure that everybody in the audience has an opportunity to also gain from your experience. What questions do we have? Anybody? A question that's going to pop up? Yes, please.
So, my daughter's wearing a brace, surgery 42. Mom's 42 and the bottom is 37. So for my husband and I, it's always been like, surgery is absolutely not an option. But at what point did you say, okay, that's this?
So the question is, Dad feels that, listen, I want to avoid surgery at all costs. It's not uncommon. I think we all, at some point, will feel that way. And the question is, at what point did you make the decision to go ahead and move that, or your family and yourself made the decision to move that?
So, my orthotist and my surgeon, before the surgeon I came here, they decided to actually stop bracing me around 8th grade because I had a growth spurt, and the brace did its best, and it did stop progressing, but it was at a point where, like, my curve was over like about 50 degrees with the brace, and they decided I did need surgery, and my family and I agreed that surgery would be the best path to correcting and fixing.
Any other questions? Yes, one more.
How much decision making did you do on your own? How much did you listen to your doctor? And how much did you talk with your parents as you were making those decisions?
So the doctors, they recommended for me that I get surgery because it was just like, at the point, I was about like 60 degrees on my top curve. So they recommended that. for my family and me, we just thought that surgery would have been like the best option. But I think it was mostly up to us, like no one was forcing us to do it.
Excellent. I think with that, we should move on. Then why don't we bring Allison up to introduce our next group.
Hi everyone, my name is Allison. I am one of the physical therapists here at Johns Hopkins. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about the Schroth method, which was previously mentioned. So hopefully give you just a brief intro with these slides, and then we'll chat with some of the patients here. So what is Schroth PT? It's a conservative method, highly specific, and it's based on each individual's curvature. So it's a little bit different than just a standard physical therapy, a little bit more individualized based on the different types of scoliosis. Really brief history, it was developed in Germany. It has progressed throughout the years. There's therapists all over the country and internationally that are trained in the Schroth method to help treat scoliosis. So our main goals, we want to correct that scoliotic posture and stabilize the spine. That has been talked about earlier. But we also want to prevent any further progression and also provide education for patients and families. So a really brief intro. We want to create the best possible posture we can. A really nice analogy we use in the clinic is thinking of your spine as these blocks. You want to stack those blocks to get the best alignment. Then we want to use breathing techniques to help reshape the torso, creating even more space for that spine to elongate. And finally, using muscles. We touched upon before the importance of muscle balance and strengthening certain muscle groups to help prevent curvature and provide the best possible posture. So these exercises are performed in a variety of positions. We're going to talk with some patients in just a bit to get their perspective, but we use a lot of different equipment, as you can see, exercise balls, a Schroth rack in the back there. Who can benefit? Everyone can benefit. The nice thing about Schroth therapy, it's so individualized that based on your age, your curvature, there are specific exercises for you, and it's our job to sort of determine what you can most benefit from. The biggest thing to take away, as mentioned earlier, Schroth is really one piece of the puzzle. We can help with the success of bracing, but it's the orthotists, the physical therapists, your orthopedic team, we're all working together to sort of get the best results. From a physical therapist standpoint, one of our biggest issues is how do we keep this going over it's a really long time period as you're growing, as that curve is stabilizing. So we're going to talk again about maybe some tips and tricks, how to maintain these exercises at home. And again, it's not just a PT session in the moment, it really is a lifestyle. So we're going to talk now, that's about it from here. This one working? So now, if you guys wouldn't mind maybe describing a little bit about what you've experienced coming to the clinic, and then also maybe a little bit at home.
So I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 9, and I went to physical therapy, and the Schroth method really worked for me because my curve went down a lot. But yeah, so I went to physical therapy once a month for the last 3 years, and it's been really working. And yeah, and I do physical therapy at home 5 to 7 days a week for 15 minutes, and it's been working.
I was diagnosed with scoliosis in 7th grade, which is when I was 13. And shortly after, I went to physical therapy and I was doing Schroth exercises. And ever since that, I've been doing Schroth at home for like 15 minutes a day. I found that it helped me in my back and like strengthen my back and make sure that I stood up straighter, but also I felt that it helped me in sports because I play competitive soccer, and before I was diagnosed with scoliosis, I felt kind of not like weak and just a little bit smaller than some of the other kids physically, but then after I was diagnosed, I was working on my strengths and my hips and my back and my abs, and I feel like I got back to the level that I was before, and it just helped me be more mindful of like how my body worked. So, I was diagnosed with scoliosis about 2 years ago, and I started doing physical therapy about a year ago. And it's really helpful, and it's helped keep my back curvature about the same. And the exercises can be challenging, but you get the hang of it once you do it more and more. And I do it at home as much as I can, because sometimes it's hard to fit into your schedule if you have a lot going on. But I usually do it about 3 times a week for 15 minutes a day.
Does anybody want to describe what some of those exercises are, kind of what your routine is at home?
So I have like elastic-ish yoga bands that I put between my door, and I close the door, and then I usually hang, so I put my arms like as high as I possibly can, and I sit on the yoga ball that I have, and I do breathing exercises to like elongate the spine, and then I also have wooden poles that I also stretch my arms up like high and I hang from, and I feel like that always just makes me like stand up straighter and just like stretches out my back. And I usually do it after school because during school I'm carrying around like a whole big backpack with books and all that stuff, and my back's usually sore. I feel like I'm more hunched over than I was, and it feels like really good and relieving. And then I usually do some core strengthening stuff, like I do planks to work on like ab strengthening and also to just like keeping my back straight. I have other ab exercises that I do, and then sometimes I do like hip strengthening stuff with bands where I put it on my ankles and I walk and try to like strengthen the hips. But yeah, I usually do that. I try to do that 5 to 6 times a week for like only 15 minutes.
I also think, while we're speaking, please start thinking about questions that you may have. If there's any questions that are popping up right now, please raise your hand so we can get it started. Otherwise, Allison will continue. Anybody? Yep.
So everyone seems to mention 15 minutes. Is that just the minimum recommended, or is there any benefit to having more than 15 minutes or less than 15 minutes?
The question is 15 minutes the minimum, or is there a recommendation perhaps to do more?
So not necessarily the minimum. The most important thing is that we are creating compliance and having our patients do exercises at home. When you're first starting, sometimes you're coming once a week, but as you're progressing, it could be once a month. So that's a lot of time outside of the clinic that doing these exercises at home is really important. But we've found that if you can focus 15 to 20 minutes, you don't have to go through an hour-long routine each day, and it tends to make it a little bit easier to continue for the long run.
Okay, there was a couple more questions. I think we'll start in the, I'm sorry.
So you had mentioned that they have to be pretty individualized. So all the regimens that you guys are doing at home were assigned by physical therapy, like individualized to you, is that correct?
Yeah, so it's all based on specific curvature, but there are general principles that will follow for everyone. So a couple of people had mentioned the thought of sort of growing tall and elongating the spine. That sort of goes across the board. But then based on if you might have a thoracic curve versus a lumbar curve or multiple curves, that's sort of going to depend the positions we put you in, some of the equipment we might use, and that's where it gets a little bit specialized, where someone mentioned earlier, you really want to make sure you have somebody that you're working with that sort of knows these differences. And that's where it's a little bit different than just your standard outpatient physical therapy.
Did your exercises change at all, or was it just a specific set that was individualized, or did it evolve over time?
Yeah, I started off doing a certain amount of activities, and then I did more, and it just took more time because I still do my original stuff, but I also expanded and did new stuff too.
Anybody else?
Mine started off kind of like just getting the basics, and then it's evolved to getting more difficult, like with strengthening hips or abs. Like I would use for like the hip strengthening stuff, I would use tighter bands to like work on muscle strengthening. And I like, because over the summers when I really worked in it, I started doing it more and more. Like I would swim to like try to do the elongation, and I'd also like do the PT as much as I could in one day. So it like kind of, I feel like it did gradually get a little harder, but then it died off a little bit when I was doing it more by myself. So I started out doing something, and then the more I went, the more we worked on, and so the more I had of options to do at home. And so I mostly do a certain exercise because, and it's like breathing, so it's mostly helpful. Well, it is the most helpful. But sometimes I'll do like core exercises and muscle exercises.
Great. Well, obviously, a lot of great information and knowledge up here. We have time for one more question, and maybe you can grab them off the stage. Please, one more.
Ladies, is there any recommendation you have for a child who refuses to do their Schroth therapy?
You can use that for other things as well. Very helpful.
I didn't want to do mine for a very long time, and I do mine in my basement, so I just like sit down there and like stare at a wall for 15 minutes so I could avoid it. But then gradually I realized that I didn't want to get the surgery because I was afraid of it. And so I was like, okay, Mia, if you don't do this, it's going to get worse, and then you're going to be sad about it. So you have to do it now. So I would like call my friends during it and just do like fun stuff. Maybe my sister would come down and entertain me when I was really, really bored. Because, yeah, it's pretty boring when you're all alone and just doing it. But so, yeah, I would like call my friends and make my sister come down and hang out with me.
Yeah. I also at times didn't really want to do it because I was like, I'd rather be watching TV right now or something like that. But I would just think about like what you were saying. Like I didn't want to get the surgery, so that was kind of my motivation around it. So mine is basically like theirs, but I'll do it now a lot because my mom forces me to, and if I don't, I get in trouble. So, yeah.
Alrighty, Michelle's going to bring up our last group, and Michelle Marks, as some of you may know, along with Peter Newton, are really the driving forces behind putting our events and what we do at Setting Scoliosis Straight Foundation, and she will lead our last session. Take it away.
Thank you everybody for being here. I really want to express my gratitude for giving me such an honor for the past 20 years to work with such an amazing organization. This was one of the first research presentations I did. Dr. Newton and I look quite a bit younger than we do now. Well, more me than you. You look great. I look but for your participation today, it's really the patients that I love getting up in the morning every day and coming to work to be able to make a difference in your lives. So thank you for your support today and tomorrow when we do these in the future. And our foundation family that we have started is really gathering patients together that have a unique and common bond in wanting to help others. And it helps our patients stay connected. It helps you learn about all of our research updates, so that way when you do reach out to Dr. Google, you know what's evidence-based and what's not. And then it helps you help others. And that's what we're going to learn from our panel today about really what inspires them to help others. Why give back? Well, all of you are in the trenches right now with dealing with your scoliosis journey, and when the battle ends or when you learn something, passing on those pearls of wisdom is really self-fulfilling and brings gratitude and joy to you when you do it. And this comfort and wisdom that you give to other people and other patients is invaluable. They really need to know that they're not alone and that there are solutions to the problems that they're being faced with and that there are people that are here for them. So I'm going to give a few examples of some of the wonderful patients and families that have helped our organization in the past. Really quickly, Jen and Jared Padilla did a super run for scoliosis. When he was 16 years old, he raised over $8,000 for scoliosis research, and Jen co-chaired our Give Back's Hope event in Philadelphia. Lindsay and Robin Gordon from Philadelphia. Lindsay developed a scoliosis athletic wear, a leisure wear, I don't know how to say that, clothing line that was scoliosis inspired, and she sold all of it, and all of the proceeds went to fund scoliosis research, and Robin co-chaired a Philadelphia event as well. Teresa and her son Jonathan Haskett are in Miami. They've raised multiple contributions for our scoliosis research, and we're incredibly grateful for their support. And they've also provided support to families because Jonathan is a boy, and it's a girl-dominated diagnosis, and being able to reach out to a family that has a male son is really important. Izzy and Pete Marzano are in our hometown of San Diego and have reached out to many patients, what you just heard about challenges with brace wear, and she just successfully graduated from wearing a brace for over 3 years and has done an amazing job in helping other patients. You heard from Aruda, who we are so inspired that she wants to give back with this incredibly busy modeling career. She still made time to come last night and to come today and share with all of you to inspire you to get through your journey and rise above on the other side. Ella Glassman, for her bat mitzvah, she decided that she didn't want any gifts. She wanted to raise money for scoliosis research, and she did just that. And then Courtney and Heidi Rohn, who you're going to hear from today, I just wanted to kind of put it on the screen so you can see the impact of their involvement with our organization. It's mind-blowing, and they are an inspiration to me, and I look so forward to seeing them every year when they come out. And Katie Fitzpatrick, who I just had the pleasure of meeting, has had a difficult journey and really wants to share her story with other patients so she can help them get through it as well. And then Eloise, I don't have a slide, but I just got to meet her, and she just told me she raised over $1,000 for scoliosis research. So a big hand to all these amazing women. And then I just want to go ahead and let you share what makes you want to give back.
Wow, sorry, that was louder than I thought it was going to be. So my name's Courtney. I am 4 years post-op. This is my 4th year with Setting Scoliosis Straight. Honestly, this event is absolutely amazing. No one really in my town has ever really had, people had scoliosis, but it was very small that no one really had to think about either bracing or the therapy or even surgery. So I was kind of alone. I did my research with Dr. Google. We looked at other things as well, but eventually we had to go to a specialist. And from there I started bracing. I was braced for 2 years. I was a dancer as well, so I was of course worried about that. I took it off for sports, so anybody who's active, don't worry about that, you'll be fine. After 2 years, the curve had gotten worse, so I eventually had to go and look at surgery. From surgery, I went to CHOP in Philadelphia with Dr. Sankar, and I'm doing great. I always say, I kind of joke about it, that I'd rather go through the surgery again than get my wisdom teeth out, just because, I don't know, there wasn't many questions. We weren't afraid to ask. That's the biggest thing, is that I try to remind people that it's your own story. Yes, all of our stories are very similar, but there's always going to be a little differences, whether it's pain tolerance or recovery time or how your body reacts with the surgery and stuff like that. So you can kind of base it off of what you hear, but evidently like it's going to be a little bit differently when you start living through it yourself. So don't be afraid to like ask questions or even just like go up to your doctor, like even if it's like you think it's a stupid question, it's probably not a stupid question. And just take off those worries and just like be vocal with your doctor, be vocal with your nurses, your anesthesiologist, whoever you're talking to, your parent, yeah, moms as well. But yeah, I just wanted to be here to try to like relieve those worries, be that person that you don't think like you have with you, but we've all gone through a similar story and we're here to like help you try to figure out your own at the same time. So thank you for having me here again.
So about 2 years ago, I was at a pediatrician's appointment and they said, oh, you might have scoliosis, you might want to go get an x-ray just to double check. And when the x-rays came back, it was about May, and it turned out I had a 33-degree curve, which was not what we were expecting, and we talked to specialists and went to Nemours, which is in the area we live, Nemours AI DuPont Hospital. And a month later, after finding out, I was in a brace and wearing it for 16 hours every day. And that experience was very sudden and unexpected. And it really made me realize that a lot of other people are also going through the same thing. Like, here's a whole room full of us who all had to go through or are about to go through some form of bracing or surgery. And it can be scary not knowing. And so, my old school, I was in 8th grade, we did a project called The Big Give, which everyone started out with a little bit of seed money, like $20, $30, and the goal was to make it grow, and then at the end of the project, give as much money as you could raise to an organization that you were passionate about trying to help and trying to create change in the world. And so I decided to partner up with Nemours AI DuPont Hospital, and they were starting a really great project researching on idiopathic scoliosis, early onset scoliosis in patients with osteogenesis imperfecta, and various other conditions. And so I set up a GoFundMe page, and I started reaching out to family members, and I spoke at a event at Nemours talking about scoliosis and my experience and my project, and I made brace bags for people who were people who had braces and needed to get them around but didn't want to just necessarily walk down the street carrying your brace if you needed to take it off. So I made them and I sold them to other patients, and by the end of the project I had raised $1,000 and donated it to Nemours to help other kids like me who had to go through something very sudden and something very scary to help try and come up with solutions for the future so that other kids don't necessarily have to go through it the same way.
So 5 years ago, I was at my school checkup, and the nurse had me do the Adams bending test, and she noticed I had a little bit of a rib hump. And a couple weeks later, I went to my pediatrician, and he diagnosed me with scoliosis. I went to a lot of doctors, and through the entire experience, I learned that I needed surgery. And in 2015, I had my first scoliosis surgery. I had verbal body tethering, which it worked for me. I can move very well. I have almost complete flexibility. In 2016, I had a surgery to correct my spondylolisthesis, which was a disc in my spine decided to be really uncooperative and slipped, and it was fused. And then unfortunately, a few years later, we discovered that my tether broke. So in 24 days, I'll be having a surgery to correct my scoliosis again. We're going to go with verbal body tethering again because I'll be able to move. if I have a fusion, my entire spine will be fused and I won't have any mobility. So that was one really big factor. So I'm at Shriners, and the organization is great. I have an amazing family there, and through the entire experience, from discovering I had scoliosis through all of my surgeries, I realized that so many kids were going through the same thing. And I'm one of the very rare cases that needs multiple surgeries to correct it. And I really wanted to help kids understand that they're not alone, and if you're one of the rare cases, there are other people around you, and to be able to talk to people that really want to understand what scoliosis is about.
My name's Heidi, and I'm Courtney's mom, and I'm the parent perspective. Because when your child is diagnosed with scoliosis, so are you. Because immediately your head goes to, what am I gonna do? How are we gonna get through it? I got other children. Fun fact, she's a triplet. So there's a lot of things that you have to work out in your home. We really didn't know too much other than the fact that it was curvature. We knew the basics. So our first job was to do our research, find out what kind of doctor we wanted to, see. Do we want 2 opinions? Do we want 3 opinions? What kind of systems were out there? What are the best x-rays? Because yes, there's different x-ray systems. So we chose CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. We have Dr. Sankar, as Courtney mentioned. And I think the biggest thing for us, so Courtney had her surgery on Cinco de Mayo. So in case you're getting if you see the apps are in the book, you'll see the J&J donate, and there's a picture of somebody wearing her sombrero, right there. Because we decided that if it was going to be an experience, and it was, we were going to make it the most positive experience. Because a positive attitude will bring a positive outcome. It is the best thing we can tell you, because it was better for her, it was better for us, it was better for her brother and sister who had their effects. It had the effect on them as well. My husband, it really was a full grandma, grandpas, aunts, uncles, cousins, don't worry, they're all involved. So you want to make sure that the whole environment is really a positive one going in. So it was Cinco de Mayo. We brought cupcakes, she brought her sombrero, her maracas, the doggy came. And it was really a wonderful experience for what could have been a horrific day. So what Courtney stated with her journey is absolutely true. We didn't have a lot of information to go towards, so that was why we really wanted to get involved with Setting Scoliosis Straight. And the way we did that was 9 months post, I know you're gonna hate this, but 9 months post-surgery, Courtney was crowned Miss Teen New Jersey International, and her platform was finding strength in scars. Because let's face it, you need strength before, you need strength during, and you need strength after. So it's her badge of courage. We always refer to it as the badge of courage, because you go deep down inside, you find something that you never knew you had, and you bring it. And I can tell you, as a parent, I am more than happy that we made this decision. We are always available. If you want, you could always reach out for us. We've counseled many people through surgeries before, after. We actually get great joy in being there and helping you guys through it, taking away the fear of the unknown. We know the fear of the unknown. There's a lot to intake. You're taking in so much information today. I remember it. So don't be afraid to reach out. The website has all of us on it. Just, we're on social media. DM us. We'll help you guys through it. It is a journey, but it is this much of your life. You have this much more to go. Just take that time to heal. Don't feel you have to do it in a marathon. You can take 3 months, you can take 6 months, you can take a year. It's yours. Own it. And that's the best way I can tell you to do it.
I want to open it up for any other questions. You are going to have an opportunity, obviously, while we are having lunch to mingle with all of us, the faculty, all of our great speakers, but we have time for a quick question or two. I mean, I know that there's a lot of really incredible stories inside the auditorium here as well, and I know that what everybody's doing is really making the lives of those that are yet to go through it or are going through it even better. So with that, I'm going to have Dr. Peter Newton come up for some closing comments.
Well, let's give these folks a round of applause. Thank you all. I don't want to kick you off, but at the same time, I don't want you to have to sit up here endlessly. Well, this is a fabulous event, and we really appreciate all of you coming. I hope that you gathered knowledge and evidence and to help you in your decisions that you have ahead. There are a lot of decisions to make, and they're not easy decisions. I can tell you, as somebody who helps people with scoliosis every day, the decisions are hard, and it does take time to work through them. Most of the time, you have some time to work through them, so don't feel like anything has to be done immediately. But getting more experience and data and knowledge is always helpful. As we close this, I would like to thank Michelle and Jamie and the Setting Scoliosis Straight team for their spectacular organization. So please give these two a round of applause. It is, I think you can tell just the energy that these two have, what a passion this organization is for them. It means a lot to both of them and really to their entire team. So to put on an event like this is a lot of work, but it brings great joy to them, and I know you can sense that and feel it as well. We had great sponsors to this meeting today, and I hope you got a chance to visit them as well. These are people who participate in this space of managing patients with scoliosis through what they do and their companies and industry that they participate in. They share the same concern about the patient that we all do and that you do for your kids. And I can just tell you that there's a real sincere group of people who've gotten together today to put this event on and try to help you in your journey. And in particular, I'd also like to thank the FDA folks who came. The Food and Drug Administration is a really important aspect of what happens in medicine. And as you sort of have heard, the controversies and the areas of new development, we've got to do that and make those advancements in technology in intelligent ways that are safe for you, but also are looking for the proof and the evidence. And to be able for us to partner with the FDA and for you to be able to partner with the FDA to help them understand what's important as we try to determine new technologies is really, really important. So I hope you will make that connection with them. I know that there's at least a couple here, Captain Pete here and Dr. Vince Devlin are here, and these are people who are really committed to trying to make sure that we advance scoliosis care for all of you as well. So I'd like to thank them, and of course the Johns Hopkins team just did a fabulous job. Dr. Sponseller and Kristen Venuti are not in this room because they're doing this. There's Kristen actually sneaking right in. Give a big wave to everybody, please. Thank you. And actually, there's a big team behind this whole, and I don't know where Tricia is either, but Dr. Sponseller's administrative person in the back, and Amy Sponseller has been running around managing things as well. So big thanks to the Johns Hopkins team as well. So you're free to get out for lunch. You got more announcements, Michelle? Lunch is outside the door. Grab a box and head outside. Mingle and get to know the rest of the folks that are here if you'd like, and catch any of us at any time. Hope you enjoyed the day. Thanks again for everybody.